working outside the country now for quite some time. And there are fundamental differences between Zimbabwe and South Africa, in the sense that in South Africa, when you need to do your business and when you need to do everything that pertains to investment, you don't need to know anybody and you don't need to be aligned to anybody. You can actually go to state institutions, and when you go to state institutions and you can do business in South Africa, even if you are a foreigner. This is a country which is so free when it comes to do business. It does not sideline foreigners, or it doesn't marginalize you because you are a foreigner. You don't need to be aligned to anybody. And on another note again, you will discover that what you see in this country is totally different, in the sense that the court of law, it has got a very sound and strong judiciary system. Whether you do business with a minister or anybody, if you feel that you are prejudiced and you're not happy, you go to the court of law, which will adjudicate fairly, freely, and timely. Arthur, which I have seen on if you are to do business in Zimbabwe, that South Africa, we have learned to deal with institutions, state institutions, which are not aligned to anybody, where you do business, and when you do business, you don't need to go through anybody. You just need to go through state institutions, and your business is more secure because it's not based on people. Unlike some certain business sections, which we see in Zimbabwe, that when you need land, you have to know so and so, you have to do this. That's how it's different from this part of the. You see, the Zimbabwean educational system, in my own opinion, it was good then, and it was relevant during my days. But I can see now, with the standard of education which my children are experiencing here in South Africa, it's far much better than the Group A Zimbabwean educational system. On the basis of that, it's very practical. And I'm noticing that for my son, who is actually in grade 10, which is Form 3 on our part, they are doing things which are more deeper, and the things which we were doing when I was doing Form 5 myself. So there's a slight improvement which I am seeing on the Zimbabwean educational system when it comes to the practicality of it. But I want to think during our days, because we were being trained to be academias, but these guys here in South Africa now, they are being trained for application and to apply things which are happening. And to some extent, if you see the level of reasoning for our children who are doing Form 3 here in South Africa, or who are doing Form 2, or whichever they are doing, it's far much higher than the Zimbabwean system. And people have been lied to most of the time that the Zimbabwean educational system is the best. No. They will be comparing with the South African Bantu educational system. But with the Group A educational system in South Africa, it's more higher than the Zimbabwean type one. The Zimbabwean educational system, it doesn't prepare us more to be entrepreneurs, but it prepares us to be academics. And I will give you a typical example. When I was learning in Zimbabwe, we had the number 1 to 10 type of education. And when we had the number 1 to 10 type of education, and you were measured on how good you were in mathematics and how good you were anywhere else. Your communication system and your confidence levels, we were not taught all that, which is totally different from the now South African educational system. It's more practical to prepare you for being an entrepreneur. The Zimbabwean educational system, it has produced so many academics, but with very few or poor entrepreneurs, because communication is very important in an educational system, which is not so much emphasized in Zimbabwe. What's emphasized in Zimbabwe, during our days, it was more like mathematics and good physics. And I think there's a slight improvement on the entrepreneurship type of education. The way I grew up in the rural areas, typically in Buhera, some of us would grow up with a single parent. My father died during the period of war, during the War of Liberation period. And I grew up with a single mother They would wake up at 4 a.m. And when we wake up at 4 a.m., we would go and tie the cows or the oxen to go to plow and till the land. And then thereafter at 6 o'clock, we would leave people continuing, and you would come, bath, and prepare to go to school. From the way I grew up, I was taught the principle of working hard. And I was taught that everything that you need to have in life, you must know where it comes from. Because wealth and success has got roots. It doesn't come or it doesn't germinate from a rocky place. It germinates from a fertile ground. And you being a fertile ground is you working hard. So when you are working hard, you are loosening your soil or the ground which is within you. And you are making it possible for a seed of success to germinate within you. So that's what I learned when I was growing up. I ask many young professionals in Zim, what I may ask them is, or what I want to tell them, is that you need to know how you bought this piece of chair. Or when you need to have very good couches, start from sitting on a tin of cooking oil or on a tin of paint, and then go on buy a chair, and then from a chair, go on buy a couch. You move on from stage to stage. Success is not a period or something else which you can wake up being a multi-millionaire. You work for it from stage to stage, and while you are doing that, you are developing a notion of accountability, and you are learning your stages of success while you are doing that. To such an extent that if you hire somebody else, when you are moving to a higher stage, you know how to do work on the lower stage. Infrastructure developers such as myself in an economy like Zimbabwe, there are some few opportunities which I have actually noticed in infrastructure. I have noticed that a Zimbabwean values having a house in the urban areas. No matter what happens, even if he is staying in rural areas like Domboshava, which are very close to Harare, and staying in rural areas like Seke, which are very close to Harare, where a person can go and build their mansions.
For Zimbabweans, they actually value having a house in the urban areas, and they can do anything for them to have a house in town. So I have noticed opportunities in housing development where you go into some old suburbs, whether in Greendale or in the old Chisipiti suburbs, you buy two stands which are next to each other. And when you buy two stands which are next to each other, you dualize them. And thereafterwards, you develop almost about 14 townhouses. And I have seen that there are so many off-takers in those townhouses which are being developed in Harare. Because Zimbabwe is not used to have a notion of gated complexes. So when you bring in a revolution of gated complexes to the people in Zimbabwe, they are liking it quite a lot. And these notions of where a person is got a house at home, but there's a lock and go system. That's what I'm seeing in infrastructure at the moment, that people are the appetite for housing is more, but I've seen that the appetite for housing, which is more, is for houses which are between 35,000 and about 60,000. There is more appetite in infrastructural development for such type of housing. Yes, it's very important for roads to be there, because roads, we call them nodes or corridors of development. Once roads are developed or once roads are being made, those are corridors of development, such that accessibility, even to go to the farming areas, to fetch your farming products to bring to town, you'll be doing it timelessly, and you'll also be doing it without damaging your cars or your infrastructure for moving. So it's very important. But however, I've highlighted the housing development. Hello, Arthur. Yeah, the most disappointing thing which I have achieved in in business, or which I have encountered in business, is when I start a project, let's say I'm given a project by the South African government to say that we want you to do this hospital, and this hospital is going to cost about 800 million rands. And I do, in infrastructure, we've got what we call stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I don't want to go into detail with this, but rather stage 5 and 6 are what we call construction supervision and monitoring. That's stage 5. Stage 6 is what we call closeout. So most of the projects which I attend, which happens in South Africa, for instance, before COVID, which were stopped by the COVID because money was being diverted, we would have done stage 1 up to 4. And when you do stage 1 up to 4, for those who are doing consulting, who are in the consulting business or professional services, that's where the bulk of the money is. So what happens is that the consultant or the professional service provider is actually paid 60% of his professional fees up to stage 4 before he starts work. And on implementation, the project is stopped because there's no budget. But at the same time, planning, everything will be done up to stage 4. Yeah, I can tell you that that's very disappointing, because it's more like a person who has got a lot of money, and when I get a lot of money but I have nothing to show for it, that this is what I have done. Other than a scenario whereby I go on to finish off the project up to stage 6, which you call construction and supervision monitoring, stage 5, stage 6 closeout, where I hand over a successful project. Look, my greatest achievement would be we have had an opportunity in South Africa to do some of the flagship projects as engineers and infrastructure developers, and not even getting a lot of money probably out of it, but having a project which you can refer to and everybody would actually point to it or recognize and see it as a sign of success. I will tell you that there was a time when we could do some hospitals, including the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, completed, now fully operational. It's actually the greatest achievement which I have said, no, here I have achieved. It's not about money. You see, money, it's a package. Money comes when you do something that is tangible. It follows results. That's how money is. But I'm very happy that results have happened there. I think my future ambition, Arthur, is I'm a cattle farmer in Zim and I'm a chicken farmer, but I would want to be one day recognized as one of the biggest cattle ranchers in Zim. I became so jealous when I heard the biography of the Zambian president now, that this guy has got about 700,000 cows and he has got more than 20 ranges of cows. And then I'm saying, oh, I've got only one ranch, and and my head is slightly less than 1,000. I think I would want to be one day the biggest cattle rancher in Zimbabwe. My word to the people in rural areas, such as I grew up in, is that you are not limited by your space, and you are not limited by your background. Never allow your background to stop your dream. Otherwise, your dream is bigger than your background. And your dream is bigger than what you wish to achieve. So, dream big. And dream to be someone else. And work hard for it. Do not ever or don't follow the toy stories. Here in South Africa, we've got our people who are mainly in the rural areas who toy for everything. When the water is actually shut down by the municipality for 1 or 2 hours, they go and toy. When something, they go and toy. But you never see a white person out of that all, because they've learned the art of developing themselves. They have learned that success is within you. So that's what I tell the people who are in the rural areas, the young ones. we have got disadvantaged backgrounds, that success is within you. And it is within your reach. You can do whatever you want with yourself and choose one day in your life either to stay in a golf estate or in a squatter camp. The squatter camp where you are today does not limit your golf estate dream. Dream big and move on towards there. And I'll be there to hold your hand. Wake up, let's go.
Hi, Contiman. You know, there's a moment when I had a very interesting chat with one of the generals in Zimbabwe. And he was telling me that, do you know that people in this country, when they see a soldier with a torn trouser or with a torn shoe, walking in town going to the combis, they laugh at him, not knowing that the outlook of your soldier reflects the economic standard of a country. If a country has got a very good economic standard, your soldier would look good. So now, what I'm telling you, Tim, and where the University of Zimbabwe is rated number 55 or number 60-something university in Africa, coming from a position where it was number 1 or within the top 5 in the 1980s, it actually reflects the economy of the country. If you want to come into a situation whereby you want to encourage the research and you want to encourage a good educational system without fixing the economy of the country, that wouldn't work and that wouldn't happen. What you need to do is that you need to fix the economy of the country so that development in so many areas, whether it's in education, whether it's in money that is needed for research and development, it actually corresponds to the economic growth in the country. So the fundamental aspect which we need to fix in our country is an economic growth with the right trajectory so that we can get money to pump into the research and development. We can't talk of pumping money into the research and development at the moment when we don't even have beds for people who are sleeping in the hospitals. When a woman comes from Gokwe in a cart, and when she does that, she arrives at a clinic to give birth, there is not even a painkiller at the clinic. And we also need to change a mindset. You see our government ministers now, they drive very big cars which we drive in the private sector, and give somebody who works in a hospital, who is within the hospital bed, such very big cars. And at the moment, in the hospital, they cannot even afford to pay nurses. It's a culture which we need to develop and change bit by bit and know the fundamentals. But that can only happen with the change of the mindset and the economic trajectory, which is big enough.